Welcome back to Life. What is it good for? Today's spiral is about control, my favorite topic. Why do we crave it? Maybe what does it cost us? And why letting go feels like death, but it might actually be freedom.
We're going to talk about the illusion of control, how it shows up in anxiety, trauma, relationships, even parenting, and perhaps even your Google Calendar.
Yeah, because when life feels chaotic and unpredictable or painful, control can give us something to hold on to. But maybe what we call safety is really just the need for certainty. And certainty? Well, maybe that's a myth passed down from a world that never guaranteed safety in the first place. So maybe life isn't good for being certain. Maybe life is good for learning how to live in the unknown. And there was a quote I came across. It said, "Control is a trauma response. It's how we try to feel safe when we never did." And that was by Dr. Nicole, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Lapura. I'm not sure if that's right, but I did like what she had to say about that.
Well, this is Life. What is it good for? Welcome to the episode. Let's get started. All right, boys and girls. Segment 1, control as a coping mechanism. So let's be honest. Most of us aren't chasing control because we think it's fun. We're chasing it because unpredictability at some point has hurt us.
Right. And for a lot of people, control, it can be about survival. You micromanage schedules, outcomes, even the emotions, because unpredictability feels like danger.
Well, this is where trauma comes in. If you live through chaos, whether it's emotional, or relational, or we'll say environmental, your nervous system wires itself to avoid uncertainty at all cost. Matter of fact, there's a prominent communications theory called the uncertainty reduction theory, which analyzes the behavioral motivations for human beings, both in their interactions and in their thinking, that we are drawn or driven by one goal, and that is to reduce any uncertainty within the environment. So we're manipulating conversations, we're having strategic thoughts internally, from behavior to just casual interactions. We need to know that our senses that take in data from the environment, those senses and the way we're processing the data is reliable enough to keep us safe. So we're constantly searching for ways to ensure that the environment is predictable. The flip side of that is that we're constantly trying to exclude data that contradicts the way we view reality, because if we do accept the data that contradicts the way we view what reality should be, then we have cognitive dissonance. And at that point, we have to exert more mental energy to reconcile the differences. Now, granted, most people are not thinking on this level. We're just mindlessly going throughout our day. But this is the algorithm that's going on underneath. How do I ensure that I'm safe? How do I know that I can trust my interpretation of reality? How do I know that reality is the way I believe it to be? Of course, this is very deep philosophical questions that people have been asking for centuries. When this plays out in normal day-to-day relationships, this uncertainty reduction principle dictates that we will more than likely try to manipulate people and circumstances so we feel safe. And here's a quote from Viktor Frankl. He was, by the way, a neurologist in the 40s, the 50s. A little after that, he was a Holocaust survivor. He was also a psychologist, philosopher, really smart guy, and he wrote a lot of books on meaning and searching for meaning. So this quote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Now, take that quote and put it in the context of someone that is a Holocaust survivor. I mean, the Holocaust brought about a lot of existential angst for people of faith. Because if there is a God, why is all this bad stuff happening, particularly to Jewish people? And so the quote that we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged then to change ourselves, is a very unsettling quote. Particularly if you are a person of faith and you have this belief in the divine protection. And it's not working out. I think we may have talked about this in a previous episode. You know, the disciples are in the boat with Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, the waves are there and Jesus is not doing this thing. Well, Jesus was doing this thing. He was sleeping through the storm. He was showing people what to do through the storm because the disciples had no control over the storm. So this begs some questions.
Yeah.
You know, what parts of your life do you overmanage to feel?
I think the question should be,
which part you do not?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I know what it's like to when I was a boy. And we can talk about these behavioral issues that come from this need for control. Being OCD. Like I had to line up all the towels in our little bathroom there to make sure the lines are right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm laying awake at night, and my OCD tendency was, did I actually turn the light switch all the way down, or is it halfway stuck and the light's going to come on accidentally? So I'm getting up 5-6 times. So these sense of control works itself out in some way. And if it doesn't, it just seeps down and lots of anger starts to build up, and then we're starting to use that to really influence our environment. So the question is, what parts of your life do you think are overmanaged to feel okay?
Everything. And I think this, I've had a little bit of an awakening over the last week or so, and here I am in my 40s now, and it's taken me this long to figure it out. I always thought, okay, I just liked things to be a certain way, and I thought I cared very deeply about people. And I think there are some elements of truth there. But I had heard someone talking on another podcast, I forgot the name of it, but they were talking about high-functioning codependency. I've heard of codependency, but I had never heard this before. And I always thought, oh, I'm an independent person. I'm not a codependent person. But the way they were describing it was that a high-functioning codependent person would be inserting themselves into things that were beyond necessarily their responsibility, just to ensure that their well-being was taken care of. And I'm paraphrasing all of this, but that was my takeaway from what they were saying. And it hit a bell with me because I'm like, I noticed I do that so much with Jeremy, with Chloe. Like, I thought it was all about just empathy, and there is empathy there, but it's not so much about, okay, I feel for them. I am feeling it so deeply that I have to solve their problem to help me. It's not 100% about solving it to help them. I have got to solve it to help me. And that is a form of control. I'm controlling their emotional experience to try to better calm my inner self.
But it's playing out at times in a way that looks empathetic and like you're helping other people because you are doing something good.
Yeah, and I have always thought that. I always thought that, wow, I just really, really care deeply about people. And I'm not saying I don't, but I think it becomes a deeper issue when I have to almost impulsively get involved to calm the situation down for myself.
I've done that in the workplace. Wow.
So
I thought my motivations were to help. I mean, I'll solve a problem. I'll just call people out on it and say, look, you're wrong, and they're dead wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't. And so the more wrong it is, the more my antenna's going off, and I don't feel safe. And oh my goodness! And so I'm going out of my way to handle situations that are outside of my job purview or my immediate responsibility, because I've got to tackle this. I got to fix it, because if I don't, then I'm not going to be safe in this environment.
Yes.
Oh man.
And this is me getting like brutally honest, and I'm literally learning all of this week. And so I've shared with you a lot actually, about, okay, if something happened to me and Jeremy, what needs to happen.
Yeah.
To all of our stuff. To the point, I mean, I have got you a very lengthy letter describing how to do everything.
18 pages, front and back.
And I got like these gigantic binders. I got 2 of these. One's personal, and the other one's business.
Jeez.
And this is control.
Is it color coded? Like, is it color coded with tabs like Monica would want it?
I went monochromatic, but it does have tabs. It has table of contents. In all seriousness, I really think it's good for people to have some form of organization, but this, I'm starting to feel, might be just a bit over the top.
Well, on this case, if something happens to you, having that roadmap that's very distinct and very planned out, so if family members know what to do, I think in that case, we should be a little bit over OCD. I don't think enough people are. I've been through that, and I got my own little box set up over there of what to do. Just burn it all down, really.
But you got to ask yourself, what is your motivation? What's driving you to make that decision?
That is a concern for people that are left behind in case something happens to me, because I don't want them to be overwhelmed. That really bases me.
But for me, when I made all this, what was going through my head was, no one's going to do it right, so I need to make sure it's done right. And I mean, and that's really. I know I'm really painting myself in a lovely light here.
That's great.
But honestly, I mean, most people are like, well, I'm dead, so let them figure it all out. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm so obsessed with control that I'm trying to do it from the grave, apparently.
Man. Yeah, I have those same tendencies. We have our differences as siblings, obviously.
Sure.
Mine works its way out in. I do not like unpredictable people.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, and I think for both of our sakes, we married spouses that are very, very, very predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I say predictable, I'm very, very dependable. We know they're steady as a rock.
Yep.
I like the dark side. I like examining the dark side of trauma.
Okay.
We want to control because it makes us feel safe. But there is a counter algorithm at play. If you've been a victim of trauma and you've internalized that, you may have a conflicting programming that says you're not worthy to be safe.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to control your environment.
Right.
But at the same time, predictability can feel very uncomfortable for you. I've seen it in relationships. I've seen where people finally get a hold of something that was safe, and they're either bored because they've lived in such a fight or flight response so long in previous relationships that they don't know what normalcy is.
Right.
And so it doesn't stimulate them enough, and they feel like, well, this person, this relationship's not doing it for me. Why? Because there's no drama, but you're not saying that to yourself, but that there's no stimulation, and so you're accustomed to being so stimulated from negativity that you're looking for relationships to stimulate you, and so that's another secret conflict that's going on while you're trying to make yourself safe. You may have another self-destructive factor that's going on there that says, okay, you don't deserve to be safe, and so you're pushing it away because I don't want to be hurt again. So that's a very messed up tug of war going on that I've seen in people's lives. And so in order to fix that, people have to get really quiet, because rather than face the monster that would be, I mean, talk about the existential angst. I mean, my Lord, the web of confusion that can be the intrapersonal dialogue. Or rather than turning off everything in your life and listening to what's really there, I see society as just a bunch of mindless drones. We all think we're being programmed, by this, how to think, how to feel, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Without stopping to think, well, how much noise is bombarding me? So I need to get rid of that as much as possible so I can listen to this internal dialogue. And how much is who I am, my decisions, how much is driven by this need how much is being driven from a place of scarcity because I feel like I'm unsafe. And I'm never really truly getting to find higher levels of existence, of self-expression and self-creativity. I've still been reeling off. Here's my notes from the last episode. We had this little aha moment at the end of that very short episode of an hour. Golly! No, if anybody makes it to an hour or 20 minutes, they're just it's gonna be our mother, and one other person is gonna watch it that long. But the pyramid of fulfillment, we talked about this. We kind of glanced over it, but I wrote it down, and I haven't gotten it out of my mind yet. So let's talk about it.
I was hoping you would draw it up so we could actually see it.
I did, and it's on a file somewhere because I don't want to go find it. But so it's a pyramid, and at the base of it is gratitude.
Okay.
And the next level is contentment, and out of that comes altruism. And once those three things are working in conjunction with one another, to that degree, we get to have the crowning achievement, which is creativity, self-expression, the higher self, whatever you want to call it. But to the degree that those are not working in that person's life, we're going to be chasing, instead of gratitude, we're going to be chasing we'll be driven by a sense of scarcity.
Yeah.
I don't have enough. This is not working out for me. And then, of course, if you don't have gratitude, you don't have contentment. And contentment feeds the opposite of contentment would be, I've got to have, and so this Machiavellianism, this I will do whatever it takes to get what I want, regardless of the consequences. And the opposite of altruism is psychopathy. I can do whatever I want to, and regardless if I hurt you, I have no remorse. So there is really the dark triad that's the opposite of what we're talking about. The dark triad being extreme narcissism and Machiavellianism. We'll talk about where I'm willing to do whatever it takes to hurt you, and then psychopathy. This idea of I don't have any empathy or sympathy for my remorse for causing you hurt. That's the opposite pyramid of the pyramid of fulfillment, because this opposite. I mean, we could find some spiritual overtones in this if we want to pull from our background of faith dealing with control. And this goes to the heart of the dichotomy between good and evil in our background of faith, where the arch enemy we refer to as the devil or Satan does not like not being in control. And he wants to be in control. And so he does everything that is good, he takes and does the inversion of it. From you just name it. So from trying to invert the Trinity to inverting everything is the opposite of good. And so you don't have gratitude, you have unthankfulness. You don't have contentment, you have greed. You don't have altruism, you have narcissism. And the form of creativity that's out there that's from the good, that is uplifting and giving, the creativity, so to say, of the dark triad is actually very, very destructive. So we're talking about control here.
Yeah.
We can't really get too far away from what is the I was talking about getting rid of all the noise a while ago. You got to get rid of all distraction. What is the dialogue that you're having internally that's motivating you're doing what you're doing in life, what you're pursuing? And most of us, I just don't think enough of us in society are pressing pause. What does the psalmist say from our religious background? Be still and know that I'm God. This whole sense of and that calmness, that solemnity. I'm not there yet. I got a long ways to go, but that's what I'm working toward in my life. Is because my wife knows that I just get so bent out of shape when I don't feel in control. I get scared. My body. Here's how I manifest in my body. If I've had a very nervous day, fortunately I don't have that anymore. But I've had it because of stressful work environments.
Right.
I can just sit there and find myself. What psychologists call stimming. I'm beside myself, or if I'm reading. If I think people don't like me, oh my goodness, it'll just start. I'm out. Things are outside my control, and so it creates this worry and anxiety. So do you notice differences in how you seek control? Oh, here we go. Do you notice differences in how you seek control at work, in relationships, or with yourself? I guess you answered that question.
Yeah, well, I obviously I don't really. I mean, I do work outside the home whenever we're doing a real estate project. But right now, we don't currently have. We just have our rentals right now, so a lot of my time is more isolated to home at the moment. But the relationships. Jeremy and Chloe, I mean, I was mentioning earlier about how this week I've noticed some like this is what I'm doing. This is the motivation behind what I'm doing. Yes, I do care about them, and I care if they're going through something that's troubling or upsetting, but they don't even have to tell me. I can walk in the room and I feel it. Yeah. And then immediately my body goes into this fight or flight mode almost. It's like, okay, I can fight through this, and if I can fix it, great. If not, I'm out of here. Like, that's what's going through my head. And
yeah.
I think back a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned somewhat jokingly about me and Jeremy having a relationship agreement. And in that agreement, I specifically wrote, because he knows that I am prone to flight. And I wrote in there, I promise, I will not leave until you and I have had a chance to talk it over.
Yeah.
So I'm not just out the door. Now, I do remember several times there being heated conversations when we were younger, and Dad would just up and leave. And I remember that very, very much, and I find myself, not that Jeremy and I getting into arguments, but if I feel like that there's any tension or any discomfort, that same feeling of flight kicks in with me.
Oh yeah.
And like, even, oh my goodness. So he and I, we've been married 21 years. When we first got married, I went to visit his distant relatives. I think it was like Christmas or something. And we were staying with them. And Jeremy, he let someone borrow my car.
Oh boy.
I lost it. It had nothing to do with someone using my car, but there was that was my escape. Like, that car was my security. And by him letting someone take my car, I felt like it was taking away my safety, my security. And I even, this morning it hit me. I feel like a lot of my control over either items or people, it has to do with our environment growing up. I know a few episodes ago we had mentioned about a person that was brought in to live with us, and that person lived in my room. And so everything that was once mine was no longer mine anymore. It felt like nothing mattered in regards to what I needed or what I wanted. And so I feel like a lot of my control has stemmed from that background. Not to excuse it, but it does help me understand it. And I know you were asking about how this works in relationships and with ourselves. And I told Jeremy just this last week. I mean, he was going through. I think that's just hitting 40. It was just like everything's just sort of burned out, and just the repetition of life. And he's like, I can't really put my finger on it. I was like, well, look, I'm making a change with me. I'm not going to try to fix and solve your problem unless you come out and say it has something to do with me. Because then it's my responsibility. If I'm doing something that's causing a problem, then it's my responsibility to fix it. But I'm not responsible for how he's feeling if it's something he has to take ownership of and solve for himself. I have just been such the type to immediately butt into everyone's feelings. Jeremy, I mean, he even voiced several years ago, he's like, I don't feel like I can have feelings that are just mine because you already know what they are. Half the time I can tell him what's bothering him and he doesn't even know what it is. He's like, oh, I didn't even realize I had that problem.
You know, that super radar has strengths and weaknesses, Achilles heel.
Yeah.
On one side, people, or at least in my life, I'll say both our lives, pick up very quickly, oh, you feel my pain. You hear it. And so I know what it's like. People just tell me their problems.
Yes.
But the flip side of that is...
people tell you your problem.
Exactly. Well, there's a dark side to it.
Yeah.
It comes across as, men, you are really caring. You're very you're very sympathetic and empathetic. And I feel guilty because I know that radar is super sensitive for selfish reasons.
Yep.
I am scanning the room trying to anticipate your behavior. I'm also programmed to believe that what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is not the truth or the entire truth, and I got to fill in the blanks because you're not going to tell me the entire truth, which means I can't take you at face value, and I got to read through it. People like you and me are true narcissists' worst nightmare. I've worked for them before. They love our productivity. They cannot stand the fact that we can see behind the curtain, because we can pick up on bullcrap really, really fast because our radar has been trained since early on through trauma to say, how do I predict when bad things are going to happen? And to do that, I've got to take little bits of data and then fill in the blanks as much as possible, just much like a code breaker. I've always felt like a code breaker. I'm trying to read the room, and the larger the room is, the more anxiety I have, because I feel overwhelmed because I'm having to read everyone that's in the room as much as possible. So I always look, I mean, when I go into a room, whether it's just, if I'm at someone's we don't do this a lot, but if there's any place where there's a small room, there's a lot of people, I'm always scanning where's the exit. Najia's not like that. When she goes to any place, she walks in, she has blinders on. Within 5 seconds, I've made eye contact with or scanned every person that's in this room. Mm-hmm. Within 10 seconds, I've probably noticed where the exits are at.
Yep.
When I'm walking across the parking lot with her, I do a 180. I walk behind her and I do a 180 all the time. 180. She's like this. When she's going through the airport, she's like this. I'm doing at least a 180 while trying to keep her in my peripheral vision to follow. Why? Why? Because I'm scanning. I'm watching for anyone that's reaching into their pocket. I'm watching for anyone. Yeah. I mean, if I actually had the physical skill set to be a security, like a Secret Service, I'd make a great person, because I'm just scanning. Why? I'm constantly scared. Just absolutely terrified. And that type of living on edge is the unspoken cost for being, at times, a real empathetic and sympathetic individual, because you can feel other people's pain, but they have no idea the amount of energy it takes to do that, because
Yes.
you're always on. You
Right.
do not know how to turn it off. And the sensory overload that can come from just going to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you're driven by, we're driven by that need to constantly control.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that I'm really attracted to these whacked out, ultra conservative, end times, bunker buying, survivor type people. You know, I mean, I think that my ultimate mansion wouldn't be a mansion. You wouldn't even know it's there. It's just a grassy knoll, and there's a pipe sticking out of it, but you don't see all the 50 caliber machine guns that are on automatic drone control. And I see you coming a mile away, and if I don't want you there, you ain't gonna be there. You know, that is how much control I bring to everything in life. It's intense, and I have a hard time relating. I don't think Jeremy's like that.
Oh,
I don't think,
no.
I don't even think my wife's that way. My wife has her own form of control, but nothing like that. And so, like,
Well-
I know what it's like to create problems where problems don't exist, and then have anxiety over those problems that I created that were never real in the first place.
Sure. Well, the high functioning codependency I was telling you about, another element to that is people that have it, they do not trust easily or at all, really.
Oh no.
And I definitely check that box, and I feel like that's where some of my control comes out, because I don't trust. And it's really hard, because I don't want to paint this doom and gloom picture for Chloe, but like, she does not understand. Like, she's wanting to go out with a friend. I'm like, okay, I will take you. Like, but the friend's mom was wanting to come get. I'm like, I don't know you. I've never met you. But no one else in Chloe's school is like that, from what we can tell. I mean, her friends, they go out with anyone and everyone, and I'm like, I don't trust.
They're not thinking.
But they haven't been exposed to what we have. Not everyone has been exposed to that type of trauma, and the two-face.
We're just really messed up.
Oh yeah, all right. Let me tell you this. So I was out with a friend of mine. We went to this women's Bible study, and when the meeting was over, we were coming out of the church. It was very dark. There wasn't a lot of lighting, and I'm like you. I'm looking around the entire time, and my friend's like, "Why are you so nervous? What are you looking at?" I'm like, "You don't know. Anyone could just come up here and attack us." And she's like, "You think like that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I was telling someone about our mother doing those drills for us. Like, okay, like.
We sometimes, I mean, not to pick on Mom, because Mom's still living. We fixated on Dad a lot, but we haven't talked about Mom. You know, but see, that's another form of control. Think of how young Mother was, and how scared she had to be because of things from Dad. And I think in her young mind, she was doing her best to prepare us to be safe. I think she wanted us to be safe. I mean, and so, yeah, but I know what you're talking about. Some of those drills we would have, and so they're good.
Yep.
My favorite quote of all times, if it's from a movie: "Trust everyone, except the devil in them." And so, I know.
Yep.
My resting way of not calculating. What's the word I'm looking for? Processing. Yeah, processing the data of the world around me. Whenever I meet you, the stranger.
Yeah.
I've already deemed that you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't the foggiest idea of what is driving you. 3, because you don't know that, I can't trust you to have integrity. 4, I anticipate you to do the worst thing possible because you're capable of doing that. And so that's my outlook on everyone. And what I used to not feel that way about people in the religious circles until life just gave me enough exposure to know that there's crap everywhere.
Yeah.
And that leads us really into segment 2. Wow, we just spent 30 minutes in segment 1.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We were going to go. The segment 2 we had entitled The Illusion of Control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we control, what we call control, is it ever the real thing? You know, it was the feeling of control. And sometimes that feeling, it's a coping mechanism.
Yes.
I feel control so I can get through this, so I feel temporarily safe. But the moment life throws you a curveball, you know, illness, loss, rejection, those things you can't control, all that scaffolding collapses. And this is where we're left with anxiety, fear, shame, you know, not having it together. Geez, because if you're driven by control and you're trying to have everything in order, but it turns out you don't, then you feel guilty that maybe you weren't good enough to control it. Now, there is a I forget the guy's name. It's Winthrop. I think it's his last name. He talks about people of faith and how we try to self-protect with our relationship with God. We like God being there as a talisman, you know, the rabbit's foot we can rub, but we're going to self-protect. And what we find, I'm going to speak from the Christian religion because that's really what I know. The real call is complete abandonment, and because you haven't any control of anything. I think the older I've gotten, the more Christ's message said, unless you become like little children, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. I've always wondered what that meant. Children don't have control of anything, and they're fine with it. You know, they're 3 years old, and where's my food? You know, where's my clothes? They're not in control of anything, and they know that, and that's not on their agenda. Their agenda is just to exist and explore the moment. And so I think control is a quote here. Control is an illusion. Peace is found in acceptance. And this is by Maxime Legacy. I can pronounce the last name. We are highly educated people here. If it doesn't have Smith or Jones as the last name, we can't pronounce it. Okay? You know, I've had a hard time pronouncing Littleton. Littleton's it's a long name, and it doesn't roll off my tongue very much. So my wife sometimes has not even used my. She thinks, why is your name so long? She just uses her maiden name sometimes.
Yeah.
Here's a prompt question. What's something you've tried to control that ultimately wasn't yours to hold?
Well, I think I sort of answered that question in regards to someone dealing with someone else's problem or emotions. I mean, I shared with you briefly yesterday about an incident that Chloe had at school. And my immediate empathy was like, I felt like I couldn't hardly breathe. Like, I felt like I was experiencing what she was experiencing. And I was driving down the road. She had called me on the phone and was trying very difficultly to get out what had happened. And I knew overall everything was fine. I knew big picture. It wasn't the end of the world that she and I felt it was in the moment. I told myself, this isn't my problem. She made a decision, and even though it wasn't the right decision, everything worked out fine. But I had to let that emotion go by telling myself, she asked me for help. I gave it to her, but I did not insert myself into it trying to solve the problem. And I was like, kudos.
Yes.
And it was exhausting in the moment, but I think old me would have handled it differently and it would have eaten at me all day and completely wiped me out, because it would have been so emotionally draining for me. So I felt like I've made a tiny progress in one, recognizing it, and two, being able to process it and handling it slightly different, hopefully more healthier way.
I'm just processing what you're talking about. I was also processing what I was going through yesterday when you called and told me about that situation. And, you know, here's how I react. to situations that I think are threatening to me or threatening to someone I care about, I have a visceral anger reaction. It's debilitating anger that comes over me when particularly injustice has been done or is happening. There's a part of me that just, if it were left unchecked, I would be a very mean individual because I hate being bullied. I hate people that bully. I hate people that lie. I don't like people that take advantage of other people. I've been there in the workplace where I've seen it happen, and I just get angry. It's like, and I've been there where I've lost, and when someone like me loses it, I don't have temper problems. I'm going to violently react to you in that sense. I mean, I'm a scrawny guy. I got a high-pitched voice like a Caucasian Urkel. There's not really anything intimidating about that. But the danger about me, because no one's going to find me intimidating, the flip side is when my anger is triggered and I'm trying to control something, I know how, because that radar has always been going on, I know how to ascertain the worst possible thing to say to someone to their face in the worst possible way. And this is how, if we raise the lid and look at how dark there's something in me, I get joyous over that. When I've cut you down to size and I have truth on my side and I've used truth as a dagger and I have made you feel this tall. Because I'm smart, I've got a lot of degrees to my name, I got a lot of experience, and all I gotta do is push that weight, and people realize, okay, you know what you're talking about, and boom, and I've done it, and I have done it before. I mean, I've done it to my own clients, and it's. I don't know if I've shared. I don't know if I shared it on this episode or not. I probably have. I'm bad about repeating myself, but that's the dark side of wanting to control, where that whole, even my own level of narcissism will come out. My own level of this, I don't care what I do to you in this moment, we're shutting you down. It is triggered when I think wrong is being done. And this is how twisted. Who said it in the Bible? The heart is exceedingly wicked. Who can know it? It might have been Isaiah. I can't remember.
I know what you're. I don't remember who, but I remember it.
But the point is, I will feel justified in my anger because I'm reacting to injustice on their end. But in the end, I actually could be just as wrong as they are with the way that I'm going about handling that.
Well, if you take scripture, then you got to take what Jesus said about turning the other cheek.
And not returning evil. Evil.
Yeah. But then you can look in the at another quote where it says an eye for an eye. So I mean, which one are you gonna go with?
Yeah, I'm only good for a paper cut. So that's all I got.
I don't know where we left off.
I don't either. We're moving
I think
into.
We got a little sidetracked.
No, we're moving into segment 3. I didn't even realize this.
I think
because we were talking about the illusion of control. Here's the cost of control. That control can feel like power, but it often isolates us.
Right.
And we've already mentioned this. It can keep people at arm's length. We avoid asking for help. We hold ourselves to impossible standards because we're supposed to be in control.
Well, and then you also have the mindset of not wanting to ask for help, like me sometimes, because I may not necessarily like the way they do it. I catch myself having that issue a lot. Like if Chloe or Jeremy wants to help me, like in the kitchen or with cleaning, I can almost be a bit of a martyr because I will take so much on myself because of the control issues I have in wanting it done a certain way. Not that my way's right. I don't know why I think my way's better. But anyway, it's
but we know this. We know why. Because most people don't think deep enough. They're certainly not strategic in their communications, just like the episode that happened with Chloe. That could have all been avoided had someone thought through the implications of that communication.
right.
And we get frustrated because people's failure to be efficient has caused high inconvenience and unpredictability in our life, and it's a level of unpredictability that we're not comfortable with. But I will say, to other people's credit, there's people out there are comfortable, I think, with higher levels of unpredictability than what you and I are.
Oh yeah.
That could be a negative thing on us and a positive thing for other people.
Definitely.
But I get why we want to take it on to ourselves. We're going to do it ourselves because by the time I take the time to explain it to you, I know Najia has said about you and me that we think faster, we work faster. It doesn't mean we're better, but our mode of development, a mode of delivery is constantly. Everybody I worked with, I'm like, why are you so slow? Why is this difficult for you? I mean, I'm talking about anything. It's because you and I, and not because we're really smart people. I mean, smarter than anybody else. I say that our motivation to get it done is a lot deeper and visceral because we're trying to be safe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so people may or may not be as hypersensitive as you and I are because they may not have been in the trauma that we've been in.
Yeah. Well, I remember several years ago, Jeremy and I, we lived in Ohio, and I was working for a company, and we moved like every 3 months because of the type of job that Jeremy had with the university he was going to school with. And so I was just doing a temporary thing, and they said, "Oh, great, this job will be about 3 months," and they had me doing like data entry, clerical stuff. I mean, it was just really minor things, but I got in there. I had it knocked out in 2 weeks, and they thought it was going to be a 3-month job. And so and that's not anything as far as kudos to me or anything, but it just goes to show the different type of
the work ethic
we're programmed.
Oh yeah, the work ethic is ridiculous in the workplace. I mean,
they stand around yakking like half the day, and I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm focused.
Exactly. I know. I know what it's like to be in a workplace and know I can do as much work as 4 of y'all combined in one day because you're not focused on what you're doing. They're also motivated by it's amazing people like to talk to other people.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested in hearing you. Matter of fact, keeping it arm's length is because that radar is so strong. I'm going to feel your problems. I'm going to feel your emotional pain, and I can't handle that. Let me do my job because I can drown out that noise. Right. And so I really have found out over the last few years exactly how odd, and not in a good way necessarily. I'm just odd in comparison to other people, and my anger over feeling so unsafe around most people is I just don't like you. I just don't like people. I literally, there's a part of me that says, give me a van. I'm going to live in a van down by the river and never talk to anybody for the rest of my life. Because as there's a part of me that's like, I just don't like people. And it's because I'm exhausted.
Well, when you are like safe, soaking in all of this stuff in the different environments, it can leave you very depleted, and drained, and sometimes
this is the cost of control that we're talking about. This is the cost of
yeah. But I guess the thing is, if you can identify it, you can name it. Can you change it? And I'm asking that somewhat rhetorically, but because I don't have the answer. I am trying to implement some minor changes in my own life, just to get peace and be able to rest and literally have to tell myself, I feel sorry for someone, I sympathize, but at the same time, there's a boundary there that's not my problem. They're not hurting me. Their feelings cannot hurt me. Whatever they're going through, like I'm trying desperately to have some type of wall there, and I am a little curious to see how this plays out. Does that make me more of a distant person? Will people feel that I am putting up that boundary, that I am less approachable?
Well, you talked about joy and you talked about peace. There's a flip side here as well. Joy can become unpredictable. It's risky.
Yeah.
Love is unpredictable. And you can become anxious over, particularly in relationships, is this person going to leave me?
Oh, yeah.
You're constantly trying to scan your environment to control it. Here's a quote from someone else's name I can't really pronounce. Peace begins when expectation ends. There's a deep philosophical implication there that I'm going to cease demanding from my environment that everything be predictable, and I learn to live in the present now.
Yeah.
And accept that, because really and truly, how much of this can I control?
Well, I was reading over this quote this morning, and I don't know really what all this particular person, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce their name either. I don't know what the message was that they were trying to convey around this quote. But I was wondering, could you substitute expectations with control? Peace begins when control ends.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I just found, just in my brief experience this week, and I know not every situation is going to be the same, and not all outcomes will work the same, but I found myself more at peace when I tell myself, okay, what Jeremy's going through, that's not my problem. It's not my emotion. I'm safe. He's not leaving me. Because I don't know why my mind goes there. I think maybe just because of our childhood, but I'm not being replaced. What he's going through, it's not about me. Therefore, his emotion should not be my emotion. I always struggle with the fact that I felt like if I put up that boundary, that meant that I didn't care. But that I'm being selfish.
Wow.
But I can honestly say, I mean, I do care about him. I care. I want him to be happy. I want him to be content, whatever adjective you want to throw in there. But that's for him to figure out. That's not for me to try to throw all these scenarios at him. I mean, he's a very smart guy. He can work this out without me having to get all up in his way and try to expedite it. That's the other thing. I think I tried to expedite the situation because, like you said, both Najia and Jeremy have mentioned that we process things a lot faster. We can solve problems, I think, quicker. We can get to the root of the problem faster. But what are we depriving, and I shouldn't say we, what am I depriving of someone if I solve it for them? What lesson are they missing out on that they could be learning themselves? All that does, I think, is make them more handicapped and dependent on me as a person because, oh, wow, she can solve it, and then they don't think for themselves.
Let's flip the question around.
Okay.
What damage are we doing to them by stressing ourselves out, by worrying about things that we can't control? What good is it? There's the cost of control. You know, it's an illusion. We're not really in control of anything.
Yeah.
But if I am draining myself emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, because I'm taking on relationship issues or things at my job or other environments that are outside of my control, but I'm taking that on as responsibility because I'm trying to control that. Mm-hmm. And I'm creating this negative energy around me because I'm so worried about it. That is a very viable cost where I am eating away at other people's peace because trying to fix the problem.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there lots of times where I've tried to fix the problem, but the people didn't realize that was a problem because they were perfectly okay with the way it is.
Yeah.
So my good wasn't interpreted as being a good. It was interpreted as you're messing things up. Because this is how it... So it's a little narcissistic and arrogant at times to assert my vision of perfection on someone else's environment, and I'm trying to change it all because it's either bother. I love that episode on Friends. You know, when Monica goes over to Ross's girlfriend and knocks on her door and says, "Hey, can I clean because it's bothering me? Because I can't sleep because I knew he was." You know, that's a humorous example of where someone like me is trying to interject in things that's none of my business because I'm trying to fix it. And I've been there in office work. I've been there in church work where I'm trying to work in another department. Man, we got to fix this. And I love this.
Monica, in that, if we're using that example, I mean, she wasn't fixing that girl's apartment to make it better for that
for her.
Girl. She
there you go.
For herself.
That's right.
And so that's why I was saying earlier, you've got to stop and ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Because if you're doing it for yourself, then that may not be the best reason to get involved.
Man, you're good. It appears in that episode she's doing some good. She's helping someone out. But that good is being done to make you be at peace, and so it's a very selfish act.
Yeah.
That's pretty twisted. Wow. The paradox of chasing safety through control can actually make us feel less safe. That's the paradox, because we never get to build trust in ourselves or others if we're trying to always control. So, segment 4 here. Oh, we're going to have an hour and a half session.
Well,
letting go, falling apart.
Right. I think there is some places in which control has a place. So I don't want people that may or may not listen to this to think that we're saying, give up, don't try.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from the force to the flow, or again, back to what I was saying, asking why. Why are you doing it? Why are you getting involved? So it's going to come back down to that motive.
Daddy told me about that vacation he took with you out there to California. You had everything scripted down on when y'all was going to have a bathroom break.
But when you have a Crohn's disease, that is important.
Yeah, that is important. So yeah, I don't think we're saying here, let's plan the part. Don't plan the party. Yeah, plan the party, but leave room for dancing. I guess parent your kid, but don't script out their story, so to say.
Yeah.
Lead your life, but stop believing you can outsmart every storm.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Well, real safety can come from possibly flexibility, not necessarily being rigid. And I think if you can open yourself up to trust, then it's possible that you can find that to be freeing in of itself. I actually read something this morning. It was from the Buddha. It said, you only lose what you cling to. And I had to sit on that for a little bit, but I think there could be some truth to that. And I know for me personally, back to trust, I mean, that does come very hard. I don't trust. It is something I have to really put my faith in someone, and that does not come easily. But if you can bring yourself to trust, that could also be the start of finding peace.
Well, the call of the Christian faith is one of complete self-abandonment, because the premise is you don't own anything in the first place. You don't even own yourself. Your body is a vessel that's been leased to you.
Yeah.
Nothing is there for your right to claim. And that is the antithesis of control. That philosophy is the complete abandonment. And saying that I acknowledge that there's nothing in which I'm really in control of. It's not abandonment of responsibility, as much as that this whole existence in which we find ourselves is characterized by an entropy reduction environment. There's nothing on which we really and truly have predictability. Because,
Right.
I mean, we don't plan on this, but you never know. One of these episodes, I could have a heart attack and drop dead. Can you imagine that? Just fall over dead and you can't get a hold of it? Oh, my Lord. Please air that. If it happens, just go, this is our last episode. Boom. It wouldn't be pretty, you just kind of fall over. But I know I'm making light of something very, very sad. But we don't have control over that, right?
No.
And so if we're going through life thinking, I've got to hold on to this, what the Buddha said, the implication is there's nothing for me to hold on to. I'm just going to do what I can and live in the moment. So I think I wrote a practical reflection down earlier while we were talking. In what areas can I be okay with not having control? Can I just say, okay, I just can't. I just let it go.
I don't know that I have a good answer for that. I think it's going to probably come down to a daily decision.
Oh, it's a mindset.
Yes, I have to think about it on a daily basis of, okay, this really doesn't matter. It's not that it's not going to affect me one way or the other if this is done this way or that way, or I've even had, if you guys come over, for example, and stay, you know how particular I am. And so I have to be very intentional of, okay, it's okay if that dish in the dishwasher is loaded differently. It's okay. I'm not going to touch it. I have to just be very intentional on those things. And I've noticed that I have rubbed off on Jeremy some in the sense that he's begun to like things a very predictable way. And he can almost get a little upset with Chloe if it's not done that way. And I'm like, look, she cleaned her dishes up. She has cleaned up. She's taken care of what is her responsibility. It's not her responsibility to load the dishwasher a way that is pleasing to us.
Man, I used to do that when I was a kid. Daddy's loading in the dishwasher was just, I would go and line them up, Yeah. Well, it turns out I ended up being just like Daddy. I just throw it in there now and go because I ain't got the time. And so I think there's a pendulum here. We want to discourage listeners from being like us, right? If anything, this podcast is going to reveal what not to be in some capacity. But there's the other end where you have total disengagement with life because you just give up. That also is problematic because there is a call, particularly those of faith background, to be engaged with this life that we're giving. It's not one that you can just walk away from, turn your brain off and completely not be present.
It's not that. I don't think you can flip a switch and you change overnight. I think it's like we were saying earlier, it's a daily awareness that you have to be in and choose how you're going to react, how you're going to respond, or in some cases not interact or respond.
Well, I think some of the greatest examples that have come across in my pathway have been those who have extreme physical disabilities. They can't control that.
Sure.
And it's amazing how many people I have met, they're confined to a wheelchair. They're really, really handicapped, and they just have a lot of joy. Yeah. And they have a lot of peace. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not mature enough for that, because if I get a paper cut, I'm telling you, the week's ruined. And so that high maintenance comes out in me. So that I don't know how to turn off that internal dialogue that everything has to be okay. I'm constantly worried about something. It's an ongoing drone. I've gotten better at it over the years, but this has been a very slow, arduous journey on how to just turn that off.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have some closing reflections here on what we talked about.
Well, maybe the control isn't the villain. Maybe in our case, it's that scary little kid trying to keep you from getting hurt again.
Well, that kid in me is tired. I'm exhausted, all right? And maybe we don't have to carry it all anymore. Maybe there's some lessons here that we can give up some of the burden.
Yeah, and maybe I can stop trying to manage everything in a spreadsheet. Maybe. I don't know if I can give that up. I might try. And let's
you go try, but you will not be successful. As Ross said.
Very true. Very true.
We have got to watch a different series besides Friends.
Well, maybe let's start showing up like it's a story, messy, unpredictable, but full of moments that you can still try to find peace in. And maybe that's what life is actually good for, and for being lived, not controlled.
Well, we can reframe control is not something to eliminate completely.
No.
It's something to negotiate, so it serves us instead
I like that.
of running us or manipulating us. Well, speaking of control, sometimes when life feels too heavy, we don't tighten our grip. We check out instead.
Ooh. Yeah, so next time we're going to be spiraling into the allure of escape. Why we binge watch, scroll endlessly, or daydream about running away.
And how maybe escape isn't the problem, but the signal that something deeper needs our attention.
Yes, that's up next on Life. What is it good for? Thanks for listening.
See y'all then. Yep.